Hi, I'm Christina Meade, and you are listening to Awaken Nation with Brad Zollis.
A huge shift is taking place on planet Earth. People seem to be waking up. Tired of the way things used to be, they are creating something brand new and changing the world we live in. My name is Brad Zollis, and I get to sit down with the next generation of idea makers, the disruptors, and the game changers. Everyday people, just like you and me, from all over, who are doing amazing things. Welcome to Awakened Nation.
Christina, I am so glad to have you on the show. Elizabeth, my business partner and producer for Awaken Nation, she's like, you got to get Christina on the show. And welcome. I'm excited to have you here.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And I'm a huge fan of Elizabeth. So anyone that she introduces me to, I'm always excited to do whatever that she's suggesting I do. So
woohoo! We're going to have a good time. Those of you who are listening in, get some notes, get ready, pen, paper, because Christina's just going to lay it on the line here. And I'm going to read her bio. And this is what I love about you. She's a self-described nerd girl. Christina Meade is the founder and executive director of the nonprofit Nerdy Girl Success. She used her expertise in education, business experience, and passion for women's issues to launch the organization whose mission is to educate and encourage teen girls in the pursuit of business and political leadership positions. The limiting beliefs of others can have a huge impact on how we feel about our own abilities. All it takes is one person believing in you and saying you can do it. Christina is determined to bring that encouragement to women and teen girls by helping them develop into the strong leaders she knows that they already are. When she isn't working in her programs, you can find Christina sitting back with her Converses up, enjoying a hot cup of coffee or Southern Comfort. I like you, girl. And reading a great book or plotting on how to take over the world. Welcome to the show, Christina Meade.
Hey, thank you for having me. Yes, and insert that evil grin and sinister laugh at that. So yes.
I want to get started and just go into a deep dive. I had to coach a young lady, a friend of mine, it was his daughter. She's gay, and she put together a program at her junior high and high school to help young teens who were maybe transgender or didn't fit into the box. And, it gave them a sanctuary. So this made national news. I won't give you the details, but the school loved it at first, and they pulled it back. His parents were complaining, but then it made national news. Yeah. And this executive from a tech company, a woman executive, said, why don't you come to see how we are doing things? You're going to love what we're doing. So she gets there, and being a teen, she doesn't know she should maybe have decorum. There were 5 middle-aged white men executives sitting on a panel talking about women's issues, what women know and what women should do, and also African-American and Latino experiences. They were explaining that to the audience. So she immediately just blurted out, what the hell? This isn't diversity. So let's start there with this disconnect. What the hell's going on?
Oh, wow. That's a lot to unpack. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not surprised that that's who's on the panel, that kind of thing. Because I don't want to speak into big generalities, but just a lot of times that's who's on the board, and it's a lot of men who are on the board. It's a lot of white men who are on the board, and wanting to, part of me can appreciate them being on the board and wanting to talk about those issues, but just a little lack of really kind of thinking about the fact that if you're going to have a conversation about diversity, that maybe your panel should also need to be diverse, right. As well. I mean, it seems like that just, I don't really know how to put it.
I can hear it. I hear it.
There's part of me that's just kind of like, yeah, what the fuck were you thinking? Pardon my French. I hope I'm allowed to curse.
That's German, actually.
But I mean, it's just kind of like not really getting it. And a lot of times, I mean, for me, I know that I've had that opportunity where I've had like that, I guess it's until you have that light bulb moment. And I had a light bulb moment where it just kind of dawned on me. So I'm in an interracial marriage, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching TV, and that's important for one of the light bulb. I'm watching TV, and all of a sudden there's this commercial on, and I'm like, holy crap. Like, I was calling my husband into the living room, like, oh my God, you gotta see this, you gotta see this. He's like, what? Like, he's expecting like something horrible or whatever. I'm like, it's us, we're on TV. Yeah. And it wasn't us personally, but it was an interracial couple being and it was the first time I had ever seen a commercial with an interracial couple in it. And that for me was a light bulb moment, like realizing like, oh, being able to see myself, like, because again, just being a white person, I'm always being represented on TV, you know, I'm always seeing somebody who looks like me. And so then having that opportunity to have that moment of a little bit of clarity of like, oh, this is what it must feel like to be a Black student, to be a Latino student, or even an adult, and walk in and actually see somebody who is in an upper position that looks like you. And so until you have, I think, that moment, that experience to realize that, then it doesn't even cross your mind that might be happening for other people, you know? And so, walking into a room and being like, yep, I am the only woman in the room. This is awesome. And the guys don't think about it because that's all, you know, they're seeing themselves reflected back to them. And so not thinking about what isn't there. So, and I think that's a lot of what it's about right now is that, because a lot of industries, a lot of upper management, is male dominated. There's a lot of men. And so they see themselves reflected. And so it isn't anything that crosses their mind that they don't have somebody else represented there. So, that was a long way of getting around to that.
No, that's what this show is about. It's sort of this awakening when you wake up and you see certain things. But I look at it this way. You know, I also was in an interracial relationship. My ex-wife is from Haiti, Black woman, speaks 4 languages. I can barely get through English. You know what I mean? And we would. People think all we did all day was talk about racial issues. We didn't. You know, we loved each other. We're a couple. But every once in a while, you'd see something on TV. And because she's a foreigner and she's from the islands, all this, she wouldn't allow her nephew to watch anything that was derogatory towards Blacks. So there was nothing in our household on the television that was derogatory. It was always uplifting of every race, creed, culture, you name it. Mm-hmm. So certain shows were just, we're not watching that, period. And he knew that, and it wasn't treated like, you're not watching that. It was like, hey, let's watch this tonight, you know, instead of watching this. So we helped steered him. But getting back to this issue of, you and I are white, and we traverse through the world. It doesn't cross our minds that maybe there's a problem or maybe there's a race issue. We're just happy. We're on dinner, and it's almost like, does a fish know it's swimming in water, or does a fish think it's flying? Yeah. You know, it's sort of, you know, that's I hate the, well, I think that's a good metaphor. Yeah. Our awareness level just may not, you know, we come back and we go, hey, wasn't that a great movie? And we're having a completely different experience than somebody else. Star Wars, one of my favorite films, and a lot of people don't complain about it. Finally, Billy D. Williams shows up in the second movie. We have all these creatures from everywhere, every part of the galaxy, except somebody of African-American culture is there. So we're seeing all this now, and I think, and let's talk about this, I think people are waking up and being aware more of this now, thank goodness. And what made you want to create Nerdy Girl Success? What drove you to just kind of go one day, you know, enough, I need to educate?
And I've been asked that question a lot, and a lot of time, and I tell people, I'm like, I just really feel like I should have like this fabulous, wonderful story. And I think it was a slow kind of awakening for me, because like I remember being, you know, in junior high and high school is when I remember it the most, when my mom would talk about her experience when she was in junior high and high school, and how like she wanted to go and she wanted to be a nurse and that kind of thing. And she was told by her high school counselor, well, you can't do that because girls aren't good at math, which I thought was really weird because like nursing was like female dominated. But she was still like, well, girls aren't good at math, so that's probably not a good route for you. My mom is a genius at math. And so it's just, so listening to that and going, man, that was just really terrible. And then being in high school, and I can remember things like that happening to myself and to friends of mine, and being in college and thinking like, oh, that sucks. And then being in college and having the same kind of thing happening for me. And just, but again, just having those moments of like, oh, this sucks, but it's going to change or whatever. And it was later, like when so I was a teacher for a while. And then when I got out of teaching and went into, my husband had started a videography business, and then going into business with him, starting to see different aspects of the world and seeing it differently, and kind of saying like, well, there really aren't, going into a networking group and like, wow, I am the only woman in the room kind of thing. It's kind of like, well, this is really weird, and then talking with my husband, like when we're going on certain jobs, he had the business for 2 years before I joined it.
Right.
And just a lot of times him saying like, I don't think I got that job because of like what I look like. I really need you to be a part of the business. And there are jobs that we would go on and he'd be like, yeah, we never would have gotten that job if it hadn't been for you. Like, you bring some validity to the business. Your whiteness brings validity to the business. And being on jobs where there was one video shoot that we did that literally the guy didn't know who to look to, because like, there's that guy, and there's a woman, there's a black guy. Like, who do I, somebody here, I got two people in front of me, and neither one of them should really be in charge, So just, and having those little experiences, it got more and more frustrating. And just, it was a buildup of that. And finally, I mean, I can't even think that there was like one particular instance that just was like the light bulb or epiphany moment, but it finally was just like, you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. So what camp do you want to be a part of? And so I was finally like, all right, I'm going to be part of the solution, and then working on, well, then how does that look? How do I fit in? What is the small part that I can do? What's the piece that pisses me off the most? And I'm going to attack that. And so for me, the part that really irritates me the most is the lack of voices that need to be like, so the BHAG for me is ultimately to change the way society views the role of women. And to have that be like literally like ingrained. And so then it's like, okay, well then so working backwards, where does that need to be? So it's kind of like businesses and the big time, the C-suite, they call it, of businesses, they are the ones who are deciding what products are being made, how are they being marketed to people, and the fact that there aren't, there's not a diversity of voices that are being heard in that room. Women's voices, women of color, gender, all of that, it's not being represented in that room. And that translates into movies, into TV shows, all of that. And then within the laws that govern us also have a huge impact on how we view other people. Are you valid? Are you worthy? And again, the lack of female representation as being the voice that's making the laws. That's why I chose like, okay, well then what can I do then to make it easier for girls to see this as a path to be on, to be in those leadership positions, and that to be a place where they want to be and should be. And just using my education background within that as well to kind of be teaching those lessons and everything.
I'm proud of you for that, because it's not easy in this day and age. And plus, with your relationship with your husband, I've seen that too. Where people are like, "Well, who do we talk to?" I was at the airport one day with my wife, and the woman had us. I looked at our tickets on the airline. I'm not going to mention the airline's name, but they had her sitting, 5 rows back, and I'm over here, and I asked the woman, I said, I'd like to sit with my wife. and like she wasn't getting that. Here's my wife, and she's like, well, when's your wife getting here? I said, my wife's here. And I said, just sit us together. I want to sit with them. This went on for 5 minutes, and there was a Latina woman next to her who was helping, in front of the computer, and she leaned over with her hand like this. And she goes, that's his wife, And then the woman was like this, and she was almost like flustered. I think people want to be progressive. I think they want to be, but we have these stuck images sometimes in our head that when we see something that doesn't fit in, we're like, huh. And only then do we really understand that we are a programmed animal almost. And that's really scary. And here's what I want to really delve into, because I do a lot of work with millennials in my work. Mm-hmm. And I notice this. This is very powerful, but I see young women, teenagers, who go through the STEM system, science, technology, and math, education, and they're crushing it. And then all of a sudden, somewhere, I don't know where it happens, whether it's college, whether it's high school, and they're about to choose the college, they make a left turn, and all of a sudden they're not doing any of that. They don't encourage them. And this I find strange, because the very first 12 coders for computers were women, and they crushed it. And now suddenly, the halls of technology, they're missing women representing. So what is going on? Is it confidence issue? Are they being sidetracked unknowingly? What's going on?
And that is the $1 million question. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, that's one of the things that trying to figure out, because there's a lot of different factors that are going on, and it's all that pre-programming and things, not just within the girls, but also within who's around them. Because especially if they've been in like these, if they've been in the STEMs and STEM programs outside of school, and it's the ones that are geared for girls, I'm wondering is now that they're in high school or whatever, because I had a conference where I was talking with girls, and they're like, I'm one of 2 girls in my math class, and I can't get the guys to listen to me when we're in a group or whatever. They just won't listen to me. How do I get them to do that? Is it, counselors who are for whatever reason, like, oh, are you sure you really want to go that route? I mean, it's just, I'm not really sure. Is it parents who are having some conversations with them, are like, are you really sure that you want to do that? Is it that they've seen and heard about some of the hostile environments that are in tech communities for women? I mean, I actually was doing a presentation at a panel discussion at Comic Palooza, where we were talking about women in gaming and how that environment is for women who are actually like the developers and that kind of thing, and how that's starting to change a little bit. But there are still some companies where it hasn't changed. So are they getting the opportunity to see and hear some of that? And that's what it is. That's still a place where I'm trying to figure this out of what's going on. But I mean, I was talking to, it was a few years ago, but I'm talking with someone, and she's sharing with me about her mentee, who happens to be at a university here in Houston area. I won't name the name of the university, but she was having a hard time relating to some of the girls that she's hanging out with in classes and that kind of thing, because she's goal oriented. Like, I know what I want to do, that kind of thing. And this is the career that I want. And she's heading that way. And a lot of the girls that she's been hanging out with are there. She says that the only reason why they're in classes, and this is what the girls are saying, is that, the men we want to marry are the men who want to marry women with a degree from Rice. And so it's kind of like, and I'm like, oh my God, that's an MRS degree. And she looked at me and I'm like, I'm like, that's a lot of time, like back in the 50s and the 60s. That's the big reason why women went to college. They didn't get careers. They went to get a guy. Yeah. And so to hear that is something that is still happening. Why is that still something that I'm hearing? It's 2019. Why am I still hearing this kind of stuff?
It is bizarre.
Because bizarre.
If you listen to millennial women, and we're talking people who are 35, 37. So when I say millennial, a lot of them, they still picture some kid sitting in front of a video game. Mm-hmm. They are middle-aged. And when you talk to the young women today, And what they say is, and I have to explain this to older women who are my age, who are boomers, who worked their way up through their career, had shoulder pads, had to act like a guy and get into that board meeting and all this. And I tell them right off the bat, millennial girls, when they were growing up to become women, they didn't have their high school going, oh, we don't have enough money for your sport. Their sports were equal to the boys. I said, their father they don't have their father's voice in the back of their head going, well, you're a girl, you can't do that. Instead, they had a father who went, yeah, baby, you crushed it. You're the greatest swimmer ever. Even if they weren't a great athlete, that dad was on the sidelines. That mom was on the sidelines saying, you can do anything. They were trained differently. They don't have the hangups. And sometimes they don't want to join women's groups, for business reasons, because they keep hearing this same rhetoric that the boomers had. Well, I had to earn my way, and my father, and damn that glass ceiling. They don't see the glass ceiling. They don't know it's there in many cases, but
Right.
they run into it at some point. But at the same time, doesn't seem like they are stepping up. Gen X women are doing the same thing. They're not
Mhm.
stepping up into the leadership roles, and the statistics are proving this,
Yeah.
because they now realize they want the life-work balance more than they want to be seen as this icon, because you do become an icon as a woman
Yeah.
stepping into the boardroom. You suddenly become
Yeah.
this image that everybody's staring at all the time. So what is it? Is it lack of confidence? Is it that they get derailed so easily? Is it that they they do have more choices than men do in many cases? What is it? I mean,
Well, so you brought up a really good point. So, and this was something that, for me, who taught the millennials, which is I'm
you
back.
understand?
Yeah, I was gonna say. So part of it, I do wonder, is because they were always being told and put in this framework of you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. That then and a lot of parents were trying to remove those out of the way, because that's a parent's, I think, natural instinct is to try to move those obstacles for their children. And so they were moving so many of the obstacles and just telling their kid that they can do it, so that a lot of times when they hit that first obstacle, they hit that challenge, and it isn't one that mom and dad can help them out with potentially. A lot of times they are kind of ill-equipped to, like, what can I do now? Because there's research too that shows that, like, a lot of times with girls, when they're hitting that obstacle, it isn't something like women and girls have a tendency to internalize the reason for a failure or for a bump on the road, that kind of thing. There's something that is wrong with me, rather than, well, that's a bump in the road. I still am really good at what I do. I can get up and do it again. I'm going to get up and try it again. A lot of
Right.
times, girls, we have that tendency to instead. So a lot of times when you're telling your kid, your girl especially, like, you're a rock star, you can do anything, you're amazing, that a lot of times too, like, then when they aren't amazing at it, then it isn't because the other player was just better prepared than you were. It's something that I did wrong. I'm now not amazing. So that's a little bit of a thing. Like, how do we deal with that?
Yeah.
When we're working on that kind of thing. But then, so there's that. And I think that we have to find the way, because I was having kind of a heated conversation with somebody, just because they shared this post and they were like, yeah, that's right. And it was this young woman who was in her 20s, and her post was that, I don't need feminism.
Right.
And for me, that's kind of like, are things different for you now as a 20-year-old than it was for me when I was a 20-year-old, and for my mom when she was 20 years old? Absolutely. And thank God. Is there still a long way to go? Absolutely. But there's a piece where, and I think that's where some of us women who are a little bit older tend to get that thing, because it's kind of like, but you need to understand, like, I really
Yeah.
want for the younger generation of women to understand, like, because I don't want us to go backwards, that this is the reason why you're here, is because all of this happened, and understanding that. Because for me, while I am like, this is supposed to be the year of the woman. And, we're so excited. And I'm so excited that so many women were elected to Congress, this last election. And that was amazing and incredible. And I'm so excited. I'm also pissed off because that's the second time in my lifetime that we've had that. It happened before in 1992. Year of the woman, the most women elected to Congress. And then look how long it took to get why wasn't it just like a constant or like a gradual growing of it? Why do we have to once again be like, okay, yay, this, why is that? There's just, I just think that by now it should be the norm.
It should be.
And it isn't,
when you think that Margaret Thatcher ran England, and then you had in Pakistan, they've had women presidents, for God's sake. Are we really as
woman president in 1980?
Are we really as progressive as we like to believe we are?
No.
I think we're blowing smoke up our, you know what?
We're totally blowing smoke up our, you know what? Because look how many people. And granted, I think the number's gotten to be beyond ridiculous. But out of the number of Democrats who are now put their name in the hat for the 2020 election, you look at who the media is really talking about.
Joe Biden. I know. And
like,
I can't believe they're even giving him time. I'm like, what? There's so many more. At least Elizabeth Warren, they're not giving her any time. It's like all the newspapers shut down and it's Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm more in the middle, libertarian, so I'm looking at the Republican side, I'm looking at both. I'm going, what the hell is going on? None of it makes sense.
Yeah. I just wanted to tell them, okay, so no offense to anybody who's listening and is a Trump supporter, rock on with your bad self. But I'm also kind of like, hey, media, have you not learned a lesson? Because look at who you focused all your time on, and then look who got elected. See the correlation. Now we're over here, and look who you're spending all your time on. We're not giving anybody else the opportunity to be heard, to be learned. I'm like, it's name recognition right now. I'm like, of course people are doing that because one, hello, he was the vice president, so of course everybody recognizes the name. And then you guys are all spending your time on the fact that, he's leading. It's like, well, hello, when's the last time you talked about Kamala Harris? What's the last time you talked about Kristen Gillibrand? Any of them, it's kind of like, hello, there are other,
it's bizarre.
This is the year of the woman. Why aren't we focusing on, So and it's because I think it's easy to fall back into that default mode, So
for those of you who are listening in, this is Christina Meade, the founder of Nerdy Girl Success. I hope you're taking notes because this is we're having a profound conversation here, and let's get back to this. I really don't understand how. I raised a girl, and I told her I want you to take martial arts, and she came to visit me here recently in Las Vegas, and she just says it the way it is, and I love that. I wanted that from her. I didn't want her to be a wallflower. She could choose to be a wallflower, but I wanted her to stand up and be able to tell somebody off.
Yeah.
And she made so many friends here in Las Vegas because the New Yorker in her just tells it like it is, and they're like, oh my God, they're hanging on every word. I was cracking up. But what happens? I don't get it. It's when I left my company K2 Design, I put Lynn Phantom in as CEO. I wanted a woman in charge because it was about freaking time. Most of our executive producers at K2 were women, because I just felt they were the only ones who had the emotional intelligence at that time to work with clients and not come back pissed off. They worked the relationship. They were much better than men. Men would come back and throw stuff and go, I don't want to work with them. They saw the relationship as the value of what we were doing.
Yeah.
So it's just driving me crazy because my mother was a very strong woman. She was 4'10", wore high heels all the time. And she was so independent, she had to have her own car. So my dad, although he was born in 1931, never used phrases like, well, you're a woman, you can't do that. He adored my mom. And if she wanted to go do whatever, he supported. Yeah, we were the Partridge Family. She sang and played piano, and I played drums, and my dad was the road crew.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so I always saw my mom. She was very strong, and she would sit me down. We'd be driving. She goes, Bradley, don't be like men, and she would have these conversations. I'm 10. I have no idea what she's talking about. And so, but she would just be mad at the world sometimes. And you're right. I don't understand how we got here now where it's just not on automatic. It's just not just happening naturally. It's like, what is it? Can we solve this problem in an hour show?
An hour show, probably not. But I mean, I think it's a lot of doing like we had talked about before. It's like uncovering those unconscious biases that we have, being willing to examine them and to think about like why, and to be okay with being uncomfortable. And I think that's a big thing, because I think that's human nature, that we don't like to be comfortable. I mean, think about anytime that you're trying to do, like changes within yourself, you think about the end of the year, New Year's resolutions, that kind of stuff. We've got all these great plans. And then the process of doing it makes you uncomfortable. And so you fall back. That's why New Year's resolutions aren't kept, because you're having to be uncomfortable to do that change. And so I think that's part of the reason why that doesn't happen, is that people start thinking about it and it makes them uncomfortable. And it's just kind of like, it takes more effort to stop and think about, well, why is it that I'm thinking this about that? Or why? And then too, like I was doing, again, when I was doing the panel discussion, I mean, I had a young man come up to me and ask me, are you one of those man-hating feminists? So, and there are a lot of women, and I think within millennials and younger, a lot of times women don't want to be identified as being a feminist and talking out because of the history of feminism and how like a lot of, you have, every group's got a radicals, but you got the radical, bra burning, man hating feminist. And I think feminism has evolved a little bit to where, and I think for the time period, there needed to be the angry feminist. I just think that now we can still be angry, but we can also be a little bit more, I don't know a little bit calmer maybe with it. Like, cause I'm angry, but I just don't necessarily voice it all the time, because I think that, for me right now, it's more flies with honey is what I'm trying to work with now, is to get people to listen now. And if more people are listening now and we're in this kind of environment, then maybe they're more willing to stop and take that in as part of their thought processes. I think that is something that's just big and needs to be done. But I think that's why we fall back into that default, is just, it's uncomfortable to do. It takes more effort. And so I don't want to do it. And I don't want to voice it out because, again, I don't want to be labeled that angry feminist. Because my husband is hilarious, because he even asked me when I was really getting into like doing this with Nerdy Girl and everything. And he was like, did I marry a feminist? And I was kind of like, I hate to tell you this, I've been a feminist forever. It's just that now my blood is boiling. I'm angry about it, and I'm willing to just stand up and talk to people about it and everything, because I'm fed up and I'm done.
Yeah. I don't think you're an angry feminist. I think you are the feminist my mom would want to hang out with. I think where people get, there are some that are leading the pack that really do want men destroyed from with a laser cannon from 35,000 feet up. Just put them in the state of Texas and boom, yes, now we're happy. I think there are some, and those are the ones that the media focuses on. But let's go back into the 60s. Gloria Steinem, Helen, all the feminist movement, the women of the feminist movement. But here's what I always point out in my keynotes. Phil Donahue and Alan Alda were helping to lead the feminist movement. And think about that. We transitioned from Alan Alda, Phil Donahue, being feminists, fighting for women.
Right.
And they were great at it, don't get me wrong. But it was almost like, well, we need men to help us get there. It's sort of the mansplaining kind of thing. But maybe at that time, that's what was needed, because nobody had the elbows and the shoulders to push in there and say, hey, look, we got to listen to this voice now. Because women, before 1965, majority of women stayed at home.
Oh, right.
But after that, when the Gen Xers were starting to be raised, they were latchkey kids. Yep. Mom and dad had to work.
Right.
So now mom was out in the workforce and not at home. So her role shifted.
Right.
And she was bringing home the paycheck. And if you know anything about economics, her paycheck was paying the taxes that were going up. So two people had to work to support the government.
Right.
And so she needed a voice. Thank goodness we transitioned from Phil Donahue to Oprah Winfrey.
Right.
And not everybody can use that as a benchmark. I'm going to create $1 billion company. But I love the fact that she's changed the dialogue that's taken place away from the angry feminists burning the bra, standing there doing this, and being the intellectual woman, the intelligentsia of this legacy. And who do you think, I mean, off the top of your head, who do you think is like the next person in charge of that? Because it seems like you have a lot of choices now.
I know, because I'm like, who do I pick? Because I'm like, you've got women. I think like women that I am looking at, who are role models for me. That I'm, there's definitely women like Barbara Corcoran, who is somebody that I'm looking, and the way that she
Love her.
is her aspect of being a woman, and like, hey, look, I'm the only skirt in the room. I'm going to, stand out, be different kind of thing. Looking at Michelle Obama, looking at Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, and just seeing how they're doing it. And like I said, just again, being angry about things, but doing it with like you're talking about, like with just a little bit more of that calm attitude. I can be angry about things and not yelling,
right,
to be heard. So I kind of wonder a little bit about who is going to be that next Oprah Winfrey, who's going to be that next woman who steps up and takes the mantle.
Right.
Gloria Steinem for the 60s and the 70s and everything, and who's going to be the next piece. And part of me is, and I know like what you were talking about, and that's one of the conversations that I was having with someone recently, was just, I don't think being a man-hating feminist is a good idea, because here's the deal, is that a lot of the rooms that we want to get into, that's the only person that's in there are guys. So we need men who are feminists. And yes, you can be a man. It was a junior in high school, so I was kind of like looking like, yes, you really can be a man and a feminist. Those two are not mutually exclusive, and that, men need women and women need men in order to push the feminist issues. So part of me kind of wonders, I'm like, I don't know, is it going to be somebody like a Justin Trudeau, who's going to be like the next leader of the, or maybe it's a side-by-side kind of thing where we're leading that path.
Right.
But I definitely I want to be one of the people who's there, who's got the foot on the gas pedal. I'm just kind of like, I'm not going backwards. We are not going to go backwards. I refuse for that to happen.
You and my mom driving in her tiny little VW. We're going to go get them.
Exactly. I don't want to have another year of the woman. I just don't.
Well, I've always believed I can support women 100% without compromising my masculinity. Right. To be the supportive, evolved type of man. I don't think people see it that way. I think they think if I have to support this, I have to cut off me, and I don't buy into that. I trained in jiu-jitsu, and I remember the first time I went up against a 4th degree woman black belt, and I'm a white belt, and she just leaps up in the air and kicks me in the side of the head, and I go to the ground, and I go, oh, that's how we're playing it. So I came at her a little harder. She did the same move. I just kept going down. It was like a comedy movie. And I realized, the dojo is one of the few places where women are truly viewed as equal. And I really would love to see that in the world more, where women are viewed in full equal measure to a man and trained to do so. I think we've lost the training. And I always tell my friends, I said, I don't know how to treat women or be there for women, because my mom didn't really sit down and say, Brad, I'm frustrated with men. Let me teach you something better. Or my father, teach me. And so I think we think our children are going to pick this up through osmosis somehow, just showing up. And it doesn't work. My father was a hell of a carpenter. do you think I can do anything? Because he didn't show me anything. He just stood there and said, hold the goddamn flashlight. That's all my dad said. Hold it straight. What the hell is wrong with you? And he thought I would pick it up by just being next to him. And we don't do that. Mm-mm. So what do you recommend to mothers and fathers nowadays who are raising their children and they have a daughter? What do you recommend?
I mean, I really think that it's being aware, because here's the deal, is that like, and this is what I talk about with a lot of women, it's like, we are telling our daughters one thing. We as women are telling our daughters one thing, and we are exhibiting behaviors that a lot of times are contradicting our messages.
Right.
And so we need to be aware of that. So not only are we telling them to do one thing, that we're actually showing them how to do it, and being conscious of showing them how to do that, and us doing it and modeling that behavior for them. So there is some osmosis, I definitely think, and pointing out when we're watching a movie and things like that, and pointing things out, and, well, why do you think that is the way that is there? And how would that be different if it were a girl, or and those kinds of things? Because I'm going to be honest, women aren't just, it isn't just, okay, so this is going to sound like really generalistic, and I apologize for that, but it isn't just men who are the oppressors of women. We're doing it to ourselves as well. It is, I was reading a research study that was showing that within a workplace, you've got managers, and so they're looking at candidates for promotions and things like that. And women managers were just as likely as male managers to not offer promotions to women who were moms. Because the idea was that, well, she's got kids, she's not going to have the time, or this promotion involves travel, so she's not going to want to travel as much. So women were just as likely to do those things to other women. And so, it's because of just, again, it's all the little ingrained things that are within, that we get bombarded from with society, TV commercials, TV shows, movies, magazines. It's everything that is ingrained. And that's what I'm like, we've got to uncover all of these unconscious biases, examine all of what, it's okay to look at everything like, why is it that, we're featuring these kind of women all the time on magazine covers? Why is it that we always have these particular articles in magazines and all of that kind of thing? I mean, what was it? I think it was 2016. There was a photo that I think went viral, or a dad took a picture at a bookstore, and it was a Boy's Life magazine, and it was a girl's side by side to a Girl's Life magazine, and just the Boy's Life was all about, like, job opportunity, careers and job opportunities and this kind of thing or that. And the Girl's Life one was all about, like, how to put on makeup and how to get a boy to like you.
So we haven't progressed in 60 years.
So it's kind of like, so getting parents to, like, stop and look at that and go, like, and have that conversation with your kid, like, why do you think that is like that? Does this seem odd or weird to you? Why does that seem odd? And that's just having, I think we need to start. It's not something that's going to change overnight. It just isn't.
So you mean don't do what I do and go, look at this bullshit. Come here. Come here. Look at this. You see this crap? I do that. And by the way, there's a huge disconnect with modern men too. A lot of modern men are just opting out of the ambition, and I want to build a house, and I'm going to be the manly man. That's changed as well. So we have a big disconnect between our media, what the pictures are trying to show us, and the indoctrination that they're doing as well. But you made me laugh because I was the MC at a women's summit 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Smart Femme Women's Summit, which was put together by Leah Woodford. And Leah said, I don't want to do this women's summit or a women's magazine where we're putting on makeup and we're going to, share recipes. She goes, I want dynamic entrepreneur women who want to kick ass and take names. So I said, okay, I'm on board with that. So it's taken about 1.5 years. I've been working with her. She asked me to MC. And you made me realize now why I saw this physical response from the women in the audience. It was 98% women. I walked out on the stage, I said, and I did my introductions and everything. I said, I want you to look around the room. These are your friends. This is a sanctuary. We're not here to keep each other back. We're here to support each other. And the friends you make today may become lifelong friends. And I want you to look to the person to the left, look to the person to the right. You're friends now, and you're going to support each other. And every shoulder in the room went like this, just relaxed and sat back. And I was like, and they were smiling. I was like, wow, is it that prevalent where in culture? Because Leah said to me when I got off stage, she says, I am really glad you said that because we are our worst enemies. I said, wow. So why is that?
Well, think about, I mean, like when you think about things that are shown on TV, it's always women are competing. Look at The Bachelor. Oh my God, women are competing for, I mean, I know that we've got The Bachelorette, but it started out with The Bachelor first, where women are we aren't collaborative, where it's this whole thing where like women have to compete for it. And then like there's the filling of the quota. So, well, we're going to take there's going to be a woman. We all feel like we're competing for the same job. We're competing for the attention, the beauty contest. We're always competing. That's kind of what we've been told. Not just necessarily verbally told word for word, you compete with other women. For whatever it is, the job, for the guy, for the whatever, that it's a competition for women, and that it just is. It's frustrating. I think we need to realize that we are far better collaborating with one another. You don't have to take something away in order to make space. Making space for one another instead of like saying like, oh, she's the only, she's the female that's on the panel. Like being able to like, no, just scoot over and here you go, and you can be up here too with me, rather than it's either me or you.
Right.
And so I think once you created that atmosphere and that feeling and setting it off of like, no, we are all here together. We're here to help one another. Is something that I think is something new-ish for women to kind of to take in.
Well, I think we are entering a new era where we're redefining what that is. The Gloria Steinem and all the feminist movement, and the cover of Cosmo magazine used to have like 10 ways to please your man kind of thing. We've graduated now to women business owners, women authors, women who are, just doing it on their own. You talk to anybody in a sales position, the single mom is voracious.
Yes.
And so this ideology, these myths that are floating around that, oh, she probably won't travel because she's got kids. No. The single mom, you talk to anybody in real estate, the single mom, it will destroy the competition because she's got to put food on the table. So these myths that, I want to thank you for being here today on Awaken Nation. And this is a powerful conversation. And that's what this show is about, giving a voice and a platform for these kind of conversations. Now, I like to close the show with a lightning round where I just ask off the cuff questions, and you tell me, your honest answer, so we get to know you a little bit. Oh, by the way, if they had to reach out to you, where's your website and that we should go to?
nerdygirlsuccess.com.
nerdygirlsuccess.com is where you can chat with Christina Meade and find all about her programs. So here's the lightning round.
Okay, here we go.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What's your favorite album or favorite song?
I'm sorry. The lightning round, and I just like sidelined that, didn't I? So I really so it's not so much an album for me as it is a decade. Like I'm a total 80s kid. So any music from the 80s, you will find me singing it.
Nice. Good. What do you obsess over?
Women's rights.
So you're pretty linear in all this.
Yeah, that and coffee. So.
Ooh, you and I could hit it off. I love good, strong coffee. Definitely love that. What would your perfect day look like?
Oh, a perfect day would honestly be out on a beach underneath an umbrella with a cooler of Southern Comfort, some other beers and that kind of thing, and a book, and nobody else around me. I'm like, that would be a perfect day right now.
You really are a nerdy girl. I love that. Christina, thank you. When you get to Las Vegas, we have a bar out here that Elizabeth and I go to, and we'd love to have you come with us. It's called the Millennium Fandom Bar.
Ooh.
And it's all Star Trek, Star Wars, every science fiction movie that was out. And as a matter of fact, when Game of Thrones came on for season 8, they had a cosplay watch party.
Nice.
So we went down there, and you get a round of mead, and we sat around and watched the whole thing. I think you would love it, and
awesome.
and fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We've had Christina Meade on from Nerdy Girl Success. Please go out and friend her, connect with her, because I think this is an important issue, especially with our teenage girls today. I think they need confidence. Can't come from you going, "You're so awesome, you're awesome, it doesn't come from that. Confidence comes from being able to achieve something that you didn't believe you could, and you achieve it, and the rest of your friends kind of sit around and go, "Wow, I didn't know you could do that." That's how you get that self-esteem up. So thank you, Christina, for bringing your wisdom to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
All right. See you next week, everybody, on Awaken Nation.
I want to thank you so much for being a big part of the Awaken Nation movement. This is how you can help me and our extraordinary guests. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And let's grow this movement by word of mouth. Our success will be because of you. Thank you, and see you next week.